This is an open wave stitch, so it's kind of a lacy fill. The book that I'm getting it out of said to make your first row was vertical stitches that were parallel to each other. And then your next row, you're looping through those stitches. Well, if you stop and analyze that, it's just a horizontal row of fly stitches done in 2 steps. So I'm going to just do fly stitches. So I'm starting on the left side because I'm right-handed. I'm going to go back down on the same line, come up between those 2 to get my fly stitch. So it's halfway between on the line above it. My thread's under my needle, pull through, and then I want to tack it down just with a nice long leg, so I'm going straight up, hopefully. Go. And then I'm going to come back up on the 3rd line down, close to where I went down on the previous fly stitch, but not in the same hole, just close to it. I want to keep my spacing similar if I can. So I'm going down on the same line, up on the line above it, in between those 2 to do the fly stitch, threads under the needle, pull through, and I'm going to go straight down. I'm going on the top line, but do realize that you could change the look of this by having really short tack down stitches up there. And I think you'll see once I get further into it, this would make really good fish scales or shingles on a house. And if I was doing that, then this stitch would be short, at least for anything I'd be working on. So just a row of fly stitches across to start. So if you had opted not to do these as fly stitches, you'd have done a row of straight stitches like that, and then you'd have come back up on the 3rd line down, threaded your needle under your straight stitch, go down, come up right next to it, again thread through and go down. So now I'm ready to do my next row. Whichever way you do those is fine. I'm going to come up on my next row down and kind of in the center of where that loop is. I'm going to thread my needle under 2, so not the wider apart but the 2 closer together stitches. I'm going to go down on the same line, kind of centered or lined up with that or close. I'm going to come up right next to that, thread it through the next 2, and I'm not switching to a tapestry because I am going in and out of the fabric regularly, so I just flip it over and use the eye of my needle when I'm threading, and then come up right next to that, thread through the next 2, and down, kind of centered on that. Come up right next to it, under the next 2. So once you do the first row, then you aren't using a ton of thread to fill in the next rows because, well, you're still using a serious amount of thread, but it's all on top of the fabric, not on the bottom. You're just getting these little tiny straight stitches on the back. So the thread you're using is almost all showing. Under the next 2. The next 2. down. And I didn't find anything that said specifically how you were supposed to do each row. I'm staggering them. So on my next row, I would come up straight down from this one. I'm going to thread, I will be threading the opposite direction. So you're always threading under your loops the way you're stitching. So on that one, I'm not going under 2. I'm only going under 1 on the edge. And then pull through, come up right next to that, go through 2, down on the line, preferably kind of centered on the one you're coming out from under. Back up right next to it, under the next 2. So you can just keep doing this as much as you want to fill in. These are fairly widely spaced, but if I took that top edge and had done the short stitch like I talked about, then it looks like scales, or I could turn it this way, cover that up, and it looks kind of like shingles. You can make those lines closer together. On this one, I have much smaller stitches. So you can play with your spacing. It's just a nice lacy fill